それにしてもあんた、よく見ると本当に綺麗だね。びっくりしたじゃないのさ。
Welcome back, everyone. The Fortunes Weave news just keeps on coming. This week, we received profiles for Pieter, Esmeralda, and Tobias. At this point, they're continuing to share information about the other retainers, or probably root-exclusive units, for each main character, with leaders to come next. It's definitely super exciting to finally get more information on Esmeralda. Esmeralda is a fisherman's daughter living in a fishing village along the coast of Dagda. She is full of wild spirit and possesses incredible strength that belies her physique. She was nearly offered as a sacrifice to a sea beast, but was saved by Dietrich and now travels with him. Her likes are handsome men, harpoon fishing, and maintaining fishing gear. There is a lot to talk about here. Firstly, this reveals that Dietrich, who begins his story traveling on a ship from Fodlan, will encounter a sea beast in one of his earlier chapters. It could even be the same situation that we see unfold in the cutscene from the first trailer, where he draws his sword on the ship. So like Theodora, who is going to be starting her story off in Serenes fighting some skeletons, Dietrich's early game will include a battle with a sea monster. It's somewhat fitting considering he's looking for a bigger, badder enemy to cull. The note that Esmeralda possesses incredible strength that belies her physique should sound familiar to you. That's because it sounds just like Dimitri, and sure enough, she too possesses the crest of Blaiddyd. It's even featured on her unique harpoon spear weapon that was left behind by her father Sinza. If this weapon is a sacred weapon though, it's certainly not glowing like they did in Three Houses. We're also not getting the silver or gold weapon icons that they used to have in Three Houses for the sacred and relic weapons, as we can see from Dietrich's Answerer sword that it's not there. So maybe this is just a normal lance with the marking of Blaiddyd and her preference weapon. It's worth noting that in cutscenes and supports, characters can now hold items, which might not sound like the craziest development, but certainly is a pretty big improvement from Three Houses. So hopefully we'll get scenes that are a little bit more elaborate this time. You'll recall that sometimes in Three Houses, the screen would just cut to black during fights or action taking place mid-conversation, which was a bit of a lame way to showcase that stuff occurring. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, but I'd certainly wish that there'd be a lot less of that going on this time. Esmeralda's fishing village is named Fina, which might be a reference to Fina from Mystery of the Emblem, the first dancer in the Fire Emblem series. We've seen a lot of past references to other characters and names on the map of Dagda, so this wouldn't be a surprise. This is the first time that Dietrich and Esmeralda are meeting, and she seems a little infatuated by his good looks. She mentions that the people at the temple said that there is no such god with the mark of Blaiddyd, which caused them to treat her father like the devil. There is a lot of lore significance here. It's very likely that they refer to Crests differently in Dagda, which would make sense, as in real life, many different cultures around the world have their own words to refer to the same phenomena. Community member Satsuma FS used the term mark in the translation, but notes that sign would be an alternate translation for her dialogue. However, this is not the same phrase used when talking about the dragon signs from Three Houses, which I'll touch upon in a bit, so it's clearly meant to be referred to by a different term in Dagda. It's also possible that the crest terminology was just something invented by Rhea and the Church of Seros, so maybe in this game we're going back to the way that they were originally referred to by the Nabateans. In Three Houses, after completing the game and starting a New Game Plus save file, the player was awarded with several items called dragon signs in their convoy, and additional ones could be purchased through the Renown system. These items allowed for anyone to possess that dragon sign's crest. They were basically held items that bestowed that crest upon a unit. Because of these items existing, many have speculated that this could explain some of the wonky things that we've seen in the pre-release information for Fortune's Weave, where sometimes characters appear to have crests and sometimes they don't. If crests were treated more like equipable items in Dagda, that would make a lot of sense. But again, they're certainly not using the same exact terminology for those dragon sign items here. So Dagda just has a different term that they call crests in general. Circling back now, if those at the temple are telling Esmeralda that no such god exists for this sign, that would imply that gods exist for the other signs that they're familiar with. So are they referring to the original Nabatean dragons that these signs or crests originated from the blood of? Or is this part of the Dagdan deities, and there isn't a deity here associated with this crest, thus it would be heretical? In this case, they'd be saying that the Grim Dragon, whose sign has been called the Crest of Blaiddyd, doesn't exist, which we know to not be the case. I suppose this means then that the Grim Dragon did not go to Dagda or have any involvement there, and thus it is pretty unknown in this region of the world. So I wonder if, beyond this, we might not see many characters with the Crest of Blaiddyd in this game, unless they come from Fodlan or elsewhere, or have somehow hidden their crest. We know that the capital of Dagzian features the Fraldarius crest, so it's possible that if the Divine Sovereign is the ruler here, that he possesses this crest, and is derived from that clan. But it's interesting to learn that the same cannot be said for Blaiddyd here. The lore of Three Hopes seem to confirm that the subtitle names, like Rhea being referred to as the Immaculate One, were in fact the true names of the characters from before, and that the Nabatean that became Eridbar upon death was once the Vigorous. So maybe the Vigorous did not directly travel to Dagda, but eventually someone of their tribe did, leading to Sinza, Esmeralda's father, living there along the coast. It's also a fun little detail that Eridbar bears a close resemblance to an oar, and now we're getting another weapon associated with the Crest of Blaiddyd, and it's a harpoon that looks like a trident. So it seems like water is an associated theme of the Blaiddyd crest line. Esmeralda is an armor knight, which we didn't really assume at first given that she wears no armor, instead opting to wield her large harpoon spear lance and a big shield to defend herself with. But her outfit is a lot more interesting than a full suit of armor, so I'm fine with that. And of course, anyone heartbroken about her class should remember that with the Three Houses styled class system, you can pretty easily make her into any other class that you'd want. Her special harpoon weapon has 1 to 2 range like a javelin, which of course makes sense as you would certainly throw or shoot harpoons in certain instances. This map that they're fighting on might be a skirmish battle, as all of the enemies that are being fought drop items, which is a little strange for a normal chapter, unless these folks stole a bunch of stuff from the fishing village. It would also make more sense for the skirmish idea to be the case, considering the tiny chunk of the map that's being used for this fight, as skirmishes tend to not take full advantage of their battlefields in the same way that normal chapters do. But I suppose this could also just be strange map design. We've seen this a lot so far. Fans are also noticing that there are a lot of similar musical motifs appearing in the music of Fortune's Weave, being heavily inspired from the music of Three Houses, which should be no shocker. But Dietrich's music in particular seems to draw the most inspiration from those tracks. Again, making perfect sense given his direct connection to Fodlan. I really hope that each character's route is accompanied by some different musical tracks, as that would lend even further to each path feeling like its own unique experience. It's also funny that the most significant lore drops about the world have been provided by Dietrich and his allies, given their distinct connection to Fodlan that we're so familiar with. This older man with the wild eyebrows has shown up in Dietrich's, Cai's, and Lida's parties, so he'll probably end up as a companion no matter whose route you take. And similarly, we can also see a new character for Dietrich's party here, this hunter or assassin looking guy. We've seen him in other footage too, specifically with Lida, so again, likely a multi-route character. It remains to be seen, but thus far, the only characters from Dietrich's group that we've not seen with anyone else are Fabio, Esmeralda, and Michaela. So I wonder if that would be the extent of the early game exclusive units for this story path. Next up we have Pieter. Pieter is a 15-year-old boy who grew up with Cai like brothers. He has exceptionally keen eyesight, and is able to observe stars even in broad daylight. His skill with the bow is top-notch, but his gentle and timid nature prevent him from unleashing his full potential. His likes are his mother's cooking, ginji fruit, and cloud watching. It's worth noting that there's a bit of a debate surrounding the translation of his favorite food. It might be goji berries, as they promote eye health, which would fit with his exceptional eyesight, or it could be a made-up food like ginji nuts. I find it rather humorous, though, that after 4 characters with varying eye impairments, then comes along Pieter with the opposite. Compared to the gentle and reserved Pieter, Tiara is serious and passionate. They're close friends, but the two seem to have completely opposite personalities. In this conversation, we learn that Pieter has been called useless at hunting, as he often lets his target go, despite being able to hit them with relative ease. He's a little too kind-hearted and empathetic, and considers if the animals have a family that he'd be taking them from. In combat, Pieter snipes enemies from the backlines using his preferred weapon, the bow. By using combat arts, Pieter can activate his personal skill sharpshooting, allowing him to target enemies from even further away. So Pieter has a pretty darn good personal skill, giving him +1 range with combat arts. Judging by his damage output in this video, though, he's probably going to be the classic low strength but high skill type of character, especially with a personal ability like this. Maybe you'll be able to train him into a god, but they'd have to balance out this pretty powerful personal skill somehow. Using Deadeye with this guy with 6 range is going to be really fun, but considering that weapons like longbows seem to have had their range nerfed, it may not be overwhelmingly effective. The fact that it's limited to combat arts is also somewhat of a balancing act too, as it's going to cost you weapon durability expenses each time you use his extended range. We also get to see a darker skinned guy with lighter blue hair here that we've seen before in Tiara's info video. So maybe this is another Cai exclusive character, as we've seen just about nothing about them. They seem to be wielding weapons that look like Chakrams, which are traditional throwing weapons, so perhaps this is a new ranged gauntlet type weapon, given the fact that they're labeled with the gauntlet icon here. And now there's Tobias. Tobias is the stalwart general of Salamis, proud of his strength and defense, who calls Queen Theodora young lady. Like Bonaparte, he has served the kingdom since the previous king's time, achieving numerous military feats on the battlefield. He is not good at using his head and has trouble remembering people's names. His likes are liquor, combat, singing, and socializing. Tobias and Bonaparte kind of have a somewhat subtle Cain and Abel situation going on. There's definitely a little bit more blue to his design, but he has some striking orangey red elements, while Bonaparte features the green. Now we finally get the name of yet another new character, the Orneus rider that we've seen with Theodora's army, Lysander. This is a scene with Lysander, one of Salamis' young soldiers. What does the earnest youngster think about his great senior Tobias' unrestrained behavior? Well, he seems to be quite shocked at the rampant drinking that Tobias must constantly be doing to be going through entire batches of barrels in a single night. Tobias definitely seems like more of a lighthearted comic relief type character, perhaps Theodora's version of Aloise. I do wonder though if they'll have to alter parts of his personality, or at least these supports involving alcohol, as I could see some sticklers being concerned with the amount of drinking being showcased here. But hopefully they won't have to err on the side of censorship. Tobias is also an armor knight, which could be more specifically defined as heavy infantry in this game, given the new indicator of movement type on all classes. And he certainly has a bit more armor than Esmeralda going on. This is taking place on a ship map in the rain. We saw from the first trailer that weather effects will be returning in Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, so I wonder if and how these effects will affect gameplay. Rain used to slow down mounted units in Fire Emblem 7, but it remains to be seen what the effects will be here. They're fighting enemy wyvern monsters, and the boss of the map is some sort of winged bird creature. It has shields on it, just like demonic beasts and other bigger enemies did in Three Houses. This might be another skirmish map. Previously, we've seen Dietrich fighting monsters after going somewhere on the world map, and this looks like it could be a similar case. Tobias is wielding a short axe and also has a smash axe in his inventory. He does not appear to have a crest, but certainly has some axe-related skills. The enemy monster's attack seems to be a generic monster weapon type, just like the striped wolves and the elephants icons that we've seen before. After killing the wyvern, Tobias receives flying lizard meat, which seems to be a cooking ingredient monster drop. It doesn't count as a regular item drop because the monster didn't have the item icon, but I'm guessing that this will work more akin to the material drops that you'd get in Three Houses when breaking enemy shields and such. In other news, the Nintendo Today news app has begun releasing English information about Fortune's Weave. So far, we've received profiles for Cai, Dietrich, and Theodora, with Lita to come. They don't reveal much, but they do reveal their English voice actors for the first time. Cai is officially voiced by Zeno Robinson, who voiced Fogado in Fire Emblem Engage, among other characters like Ross and Zehark in Heroes. Dietrich is voiced by Xander Mobus, who voiced Arvis, Innis, and Kaze in Heroes, and finally gets his first role in a mainline Fire Emblem title. Theodora is voiced by Shara Kirby, who has previously played Gonglot in Heroes. There's more to come, so please get subscribed. If you haven't seen them yet, check out my other recent videos about Fortune's Weave news as well. And be sure to tune in to my weekly live streams on Lucky Crit x2. Catch you next time.